So this is actually my second attempt at this video because the first time I did this video, I did the whole thing, was really cool until I realized I didn't turn the audio on. What's up, everybody? James Jackson here. Welcome back to the Rebel Loving Scum. I'm here to talk about Act 2 of The Mandalorian. This is part of my Mandalorian series leading up to Season 2 of The Mandalorian this Friday, so super excited for it. I can't wait for it. But I want to talk about the second act, episodes 4, 5, and 6 in this video, and sort of go over them really quick. This set of episodes is what I called in my first video. By the way, if you haven't checked that out, definitely go check that out. I'll leave a link in the description for that video. But these are what I call the Adventure of the Day episodes, where we got our character establishment, we got our universe set up in the first 3 episodes. Now we're going in and we're sort of having fun. These are the fun episodes, and I had, for the most part, fun. Probably on some of these episodes, a lot more fun than I thought it would. Let's start in with Chapter 4, which I thought was, when I first saw it, I wasn't really a fan of it, I'll be quite honest. I felt, because the Mandalorian was still sort of like this badass with a warm heart to Baby Yoda, but I also felt that we'll get to, which is more of the romance side with this one woman and widow. I felt it was kind of like being forced upon it, and it was being too cutesy. I do love the aesthetics of the planet is leaving my head. I love the aesthetics of the planet, so I do love the fact that we're setting up this, again, we're going to expanding the universe and seeing more of this Star Wars thing that we want to see. That's one of the big things that I love about this show, is we're seeing more of the galaxy and getting an idea of what else is in this universe. And in this one, this is basically a small group of villagers that constantly being attacked by these group of raiders that, and they keep getting attacked over and over. If you know, obviously a lot of people compare this episode to Seven Samurai. Even the Clone Wars sort of did an episode like this. But Mando basically arrives on the planet, basically trying to hide out. Him and Baby Yoda going into hiding. He comes across Gina Carano's character, Cara Dune, and then they sort of get together to sort of help protect this village from these raiders. Some of the things I did love about this episode was I love that we now have a good solid relationship between Baby Yoda and Mandalorian. And because it's like, I love the interaction. It's like, okay, when he's telling Baby Yoda to stop touching things on the ship, and he just wants to be a little bit of chaos with it by hitting buttons. Reminds me so much of my little daughter, who I tell her all the time not to touch it, but yeah, she always likes to push those buttons. If you have kids, you totally understand that. And I also like the fact it's like he's like little womp rat. It's like, ugh. The relationship with them is adorable. It's amazing. That's one of the best things about it. And I gotta give the director of this episode, Bryce Dallas Howard, which, by the way, this is her directorial debut. But that relationship is so adorable, and they still put a lot of nice little lores that tie into different things. They got a Loaf Cat that ties directly to Rebels, and it was cool. Definitely has a lot of Dave Filoni's influence. I really want to, but I love the relationship. I really do enjoy was the relationship between Cara Dune and Mandalorian, because it actually, normally when you have a relationship, normally when you have two characters that sort of show up that are going to be part of the series, main core of the series, sometimes when they get together, it just feels forced. It just feels like, okay, that just seems weird that it just happened. But in this case, it makes all the sense in the world. Cara Dune is a shock trooper. Not only is she a shock trooper, and she was fighting against the Empire, which Mando also hates because of what the Imperials did to the Mandalorians, but also for the fact that she is someone that lives for the thrill of combat. She lives for the thrill of battle, because she talks about how when the war ended, she was put more on diplomatic escorts and things like that, and she was just like, this isn't me. I'm I'm a soldier. I'm out for fight. So you can see she has sort of that like Mandalorian fighting spirit in her. And it's something that Mando's clearly drawn upon. Again, one of the main things that I talk about of this season was this is a coming of age story for Mando. He technically, while yes, he is a Mandalorian, he's not a full Mandalorian yet. He's still in the process of becoming a Mandalorian, and that is leaked out in so many different parts of the season. And it's also seen here because it's like she's kind of that Mandalorian and something that he continues wanting to try to be. So he respects her a lot for that, and they just sort of click, and it just works naturally. And for the simple fact, the fact that she can basically damn near clothesline him in full Beskar steel armor and knock him to the ground, I think she got a lot more respect out of them for that. This episode is a very heavy relationship connection episode, but also it's an episode about things that could be. And this drives us to this woman that we see at the beginning of the episode with her daughter, and how she she is smitten by the Mandalorian. She's totally into him. We all know she's totally into him, but he's also kind of into her. You know, at first it's just sort of like he's just there to sort of just be there, just to make some little money and lay low. But then, you know, things start heating up. They find out what they're actually dealing with, which is a walker. And she's shown that she can shoot, so it's like his interest in her definitely perks up again. He seems like he would be very into some dominatrix BDSM. That's all I'm saying about that. This episode, while technically does kind of have a happy ending, it's actually more of a tragedy. Because this is somebody who is shown that he can have a life outside of fighting, outside of combat, outside of battles and wars. And it's there for him to take it. Not just for him, it's also for Baby Yoda. Baby Yoda has friends, people of his age. Well, okay, not his age. He's still 50 years old, but you get the point. He's basically, Baby Yoda has now people that he's connected with. And it's a lifestyle that they both can sit and relax. And it's shown at the end of the episode that that's just not possible. It's quickly shown that this lifestyle is not for either one of them. So it's kind of a tragedy that they have something that they could have had, but realize, and I think both of them realize, they can't have it. At least not for now. Let's get to chapter 5. This is probably the most disliked episode of the season. And I gotta be honest with you guys, I actually like this episode a lot. I love this episode. This one was done once again by Dave Filoni, and the reason why I love it is for the same reason why I love Chapter 1. And it's something that I've noticed about Dave Filoni, at least with his live action directorials, which is only these two at this point. Whether how you feel about story, how you feel about dialogue, and how he deals with the characters, the one thing I will always say with Dave Filoni's episode is I will always look forward to his lore building and his expansion, because that's really what this episode is about. This is the universe expanding episode. This one is to get a more sense of, this episode is all about not telling necessarily the story of either Mando or Baby Yoda or the gunslinger that is basically what this title is after. But this is the story of another character that most people probably aren't thinking about, and that's Tatooine. Tatooine has been with us since the very first Star Wars movie. When R2-D2 and C-3PO crash land on there looking for Obi-Wan Kenobi. It has been in, I mean, how many times we've been there? We've been there from A New Hope. We've been there with Return of the Jedi. We've been there with The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith. We've been there at least one time in Rebels. So this planet has been through a lot. So I know a lot of people were like, really, we're going back to Tatooine? And it felt like it was more of a constriction making the galaxy small. I totally disagree with them on this one. This episode really expanded and actually sort of gave nods to a lot of legend, now quote, legend lore, specifically in regards to probably one of the most famous video games of all time, which is also one of my favorite games of all time, Knights of the Old Republic. This sort of gave this nod in two fashions. One, seeing the progression of Tatooine. And the nod sort of there is sort of like, if you're familiar with the history of Tatooine, Tatooine actually used to be a very herbal planet. But then this race of species called the Rakata basically came in and basically stripped the entire planet bare and enslaved all the race, and those native races actually ended up becoming Tusken Raiders. And then just over the generations, you see that people have come to this planet and try to mine different resources. In the case of Knights of the Old Republic, when you're going there, it's moisture evaporators. And you sort of do the same thing if you go to the Old Republic storyline. It's a lot of it's moisture evaporators and for supplies for the war between the Empire and the Sith, at least during the Old Republic era. A lot of this is directly tied to Tusken Raiders, which is one of the best things I love about this planet, was the fact that Mando actually references that Tusken Raiders are the natives, and people said, he's like, Tusken Raiders are the natives and everybody else is an outsider. And it's true. Tusken Raiders seeing people come in and take away bits and pieces of their homes. So this was sort of, at least for I would say the wider general audience, this is the first time they got to see, Tusken Raiders in a different perspective. That really was something that we saw back in Knights of the Old Republic when you actually learned the history of Tatooine. And I'm so glad that Dave Filoni brought that into this episode. The other character progression of Tatooine is basically from the very first New Hope. You got that guy who famously goes, you, sir, your droids, we don't serve their kind here. They must stand out. So droids were not allowed to be served in that bar at the time when Luke was getting ready to start his adventure, to now when Mandalorian walks into that same cantina, it's run by droids, possibly owned by droids as well. So just seeing that progression is such a nice little hint and nod. Now let's talk about the gunslinger real quick, because everybody's going to talk about his poor acting and how cheesy and over the top he is, and the dialogue. And yes, the dialogue is very cheesy. It's very it's not great. However, I sort of took it a different way than what most people saw it. Because if you remember the character, he's a very, he's a showman. He's trying to be this bravado, he's thinking he's this big hotshot when he first introduces Mando to his bounty and to his target. And he's like, I'm hunting this guy. And then, of course, Mando knows who Finnick is. Yeah, Finnick is, and he's like, dude, you're going to get wiped on the floor if you try to pursue her. And of course, all the bravado then just completely falls, and he's like, okay, this is like my first time. So his poor acting, I like how Dave sort of uses his poor acting to a sense that, or at least his amateurism of acting, to sort of give off this sense of, yeah, he's not good at this. Just like his character is not good at this bounty hunting thing. He's like, okay. So it kind of works because he's a tryhard. He's a tryhard. He thinks he's bigger, or he wants to be bigger than what he actually is. And I love that about this scene where his acting sort of, weirdly, as bad as it was, kind of works with the character that he was given. So that's it. However, there is some things down for. I definitely think Mi Nong Wen's character Finnick was definitely grotesquely underused. I wish we had more of her, but it is what it is. And of course, there was the little hint dropped at the end that the season never really addressed. So maybe they'll address it. We're hoping we'll answer it in season 2, but we'll see. Now let's get to the last one, The Prisoners. And I don't really have much to say about this episode. because honestly, this is my least favorite episode. I will just say this: I do love the fact that they're opening up to different species. So we had, and I love the actors in this episode. I love Clancy Brown. I love the woman who I'm forgetting her name. The woman who plays Sheila. Bill Burr, of course. Bill Burr, you know, with his Bill Burrisms. He was honestly the bright part of the whole episode was Bill Burr's character. And they definitely were having fun. I will say this. They were definitely having fun, and I'm glad that they were having fun. But if you want to talk about over top, I felt these characters were over top, and honestly, they were just, I mean, it was like an asshole, and because this is sort of more of a character of Mando again, because these are people that he has, at least for some of these characters, he has relationships with. It's never really explained why he felt he needed to go to this, because clearly nobody likes him because they all want to kill him. Every single one, throughout the entire episode, they all want to try to kill him. And he clearly knows, or at least has some indication that they want to kill him. It's never explained why he needs to go there. I feel like there's so many other different ways you could probably go deeper into Mando's story. This just seemed like there was no reason for him to work with. Clearly, he didn't get along with them, and he sort of begrudgingly goes with this all the time. So it's kind of like, I don't know. I did thought it was cool with some of the references, like the Republic trooper that's on the ship is actually the voice actor of Anakin from the Clone Wars. And I do love the little cameo appearances of the 3 directors in this of the series, Dave Filoni, Rick Famuyiwa, and Deborah Chow. But overall, there was a couple cool action scenes. I thought the fight between the Devaronian and the Mando was a really cool fight. I just didn't think this one was a good episode. But this is my thoughts of Act 2. We're getting ready to close everything out in Act 3 with the finale for tomorrow, so definitely tune in then. Make sure to leave a like, leave a comment below, and make sure to hit that subscribe button. Love to hear from you guys. Definitely hit the likes. The likes definitely help me out. And until next time, may the Force be with you.